Remorse and Buyer Steps with Yetta, Dekor, and
Candice, Dekor, St. Louis.
very well done. So we have a lot of fun in this industry because we get to help buyers navigate and sellers. And this particular show is going to be pretty much exclusively around the buying part of the process. What's involved in buying a home, and why would we start with the word remorse?
Remorse is one of those things through the buying process that not everybody knows exists. And
Right.
when it does happen to a buyer, they're quite surprised that it's happening to them.
So when you're in the process of buying a home, I think a lot of times we think it's going to be a happy occasion, although it's not always a happy occasion. Often it is, though. And so you think, how could I have any remorse through that process? And so when it does sneak up on you, and actually I would say it sneaks up because you don't know it's coming,
Right.
it can be very unsettling, and probably in my almost 30-year career of real estate has been the thing that I have found one of the most vital things to talk about.
Yeah.
Is that whole buyer's remorse. And it can happen probably up to 3 or 4 times through the journey and the adventure of buying a home. And I'm going to call it an adventure because there are things that you don't expect to have happen that happen, and we want to have a lot of fun. And I think adventures are fun when we're in the process of buying a home, and we want to make great decisions through the process. So the first time buyer's remorse that could happen, when would that be, Candice?
That would probably be when they're selecting a realtor, making sure that this is the right person to work with them and guide them the right way, because they may not be comfortable in that adventure. So finding the right person to guide them along.
Because it can be huge.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because today, most of the time, well, every time actually, the best way for a buyer to be served and cared for is in fact to have an exclusive relationship with one realtor or one team of realtors. And so that can feel like a big commitment.
It can be,
right?
Yeah.
Now we have done something on the Dekor team, and this is not typical throughout our industry. I know when I first introduced it to a broker that I worked for, I guess 26 years ago, and said that what I'd like to offer all of my clients is something called an easy exit. And she said, no, you're not going to do that. You're going to have them sign paperwork. And at that point, we were specifically talking about sellers because there wasn't such a thing as representing buyers back in that time. And there certainly has been since 1995, though. And so she said to me, you don't want to do that. You want to, well, force them to stay with you. Mm-hmm. And my thinking then and my thinking now, so I unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess, went against her counsel and chose to offer that to all of my clients. And we have done that now the entire time.
Yeah.
And what that basically says is when we're entering into that relationship to represent somebody when they're buying a home, we anticipate that we're going to be able to fulfill your needs, that we're going to be able to exceed your expectations, have a great journey, keep you informed, help you make great decisions, be your coach, your guide, your mentor through that process. And if for some reason, either you or I ought not to have, either the Dekor team or you ought not to have entered that business relationship, I think it's a lot wiser to nullify the contract that you signed.
Yeah.
And actually throw it out.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Instead of dragging someone through it that first doesn't want to be in it or realizes it's not working for them, or us realizing we can't meet all their needs. So it's better to say goodbye and part as friends than drag them through something and disappoint them along the way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So although it's typical to have a little bit of buyer's remorse when you make that decision, that doesn't mean it was a bad decision. So that's the first piece, sort of just to be aware of, that could happen even when you've made a fantastic decision, because it's a big decision. And you're going to start getting counsel.
Yes, you're going to start getting counsel from everybody and anybody that's ever purchased a house or their thoughts on the process. You will have wisdom given to you by pretty much everybody around that you tell you're going to be buying a home.
Right. And some of it really is awesome wisdom, and some of it maybe isn't so awesome wisdom, because there's always horror stories out there, and there's also great successes. So either to set you up for something that's more than you can anticipate or something less than you can anticipate, either way, it just creates some confusion in the process. And so we really coach you that call us at the beginning of your journey, before you've selected your banker, before you've selected your building inspector, unless it's somebody you already know. That's a little bit different. But certainly before you've kind of put all your pieces together, typically what reduces the stress and the remorse hole through the process is by having somebody to actually guide you through from the beginning.
Yeah, and coach you along the way and have the same solid advice, someone that's doing it every day for other people as well and familiar with each process.
Right. Somebody that's helped thousands of buyers and sellers over the last several years knows how to navigate the whole journey, right? Yeah. And so certainly everyone on the Dekor team is well experienced. There's no new realtors on the team at all. Everybody's got at least, 6-7 years experience. 7 years, yeah. So lots of opportunity to get wise counsel. And the processes and the systems really have been developed over the last almost 30 years.
That's right.
So even somebody that's been in the industry on either side of 10 years really is bringing with them skills and tools of almost 30 years, which is kind of cool.
Very cool.
So that is your first time for Buyer's Remorse. So your first step is call us, get us on your side on the journey, and help us feel good, help us help you feel good about the whole process, which takes information.
Yeah, it really means being open and honest with us so we can guide you through the process, understand where you are, what your thoughts are, where your reservations are, and then we can really help someone through the process.
Yeah. And what a first step, sometimes if you're sort of 2, 3, 4 years out and you're thinking it's too early to sit and have a face-to-face, then an amazing thing that we've now been offering for, I think in 10 years, is workshops that happen periodically on the whole process of buying a home. And so even if you've already owned a home, if it's been 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, there may be a lot of value in sitting down and hearing it all again. Because I find sometimes when people, especially when they buy their first home, not when they're working with us, in general though, it's almost a blur.
It is. Yeah.
And so even if you're on your second home or even your third home and it's been a fair number of years, that low-key buyer's workshop can be a really valuable, helpful part of the journey.
And it can, kind of nudge you and be like, oh yeah, that's what happened next. And just remind you of the process if it's been a long time.
Right. And the process has changed too if it's been a long time. It's not at all what it used to be. There's different inspections. The way we handle disclosure statements even in the last couple of years has changed.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that is continually shifting in the real estate industry. So your next opportunity to watch and listen and experience a workshop on buying a home is actually Thursday, May 19th at 6:30 p.m. at our One Terry's location in the city, just off of Hunt Club and Prince of Wales at Keller Williams Solid Rock Realty. So you'll want to register. You can just simply send an email to info@dekorteam.com. Do provide your phone number and how we can reach you so that we can make sure if there's any change, or we can just make sure we've got enough space for you and we can be available to really deliver a great workshop that will position you well. So that's whether you're 3, 4, 5 years out, and even if you're only 6 months out, it's still, or even 3 months out, it's still a great way to sort of get that overarching perspective.
Yeah.
Right?
Understanding. Yeah.
Exactly. So, or you can call us at 613-860-4663, 613-860-4663. So now let's say you've been to the workshop, you've got a lot of good solid information, you've probably done some Googling to support the things you've learned and checked out some things, probably talked to some people, so now the confusion starts to set in again. Yes. So then it's time for the one-on-one consultation. So we start with a one-on-one consultation with you, all the parties that are going to be making the decision in the buying process. It's really important that they're in the room.
Yes, absolutely.
Why is it important, Candice?
It's important that everyone's on the same page and learning the same steps at the same time and not relaying information back and forth. It's better for us to meet with everybody at the same time. So the decision makers could be a husband or wife, it could be a parent helping purchase your first home, anything like that. Whoever's involved needs to be there at the first consult.
Yeah, it's really helpful because that first consult, although it's only about an hour of your time, and if you're with me, maybe it's a little bit longer because the stories just keep coming. Anyway, it's either side of an hour. And the point of that is really just to set our strategy in place.
Yes.
To figure out your timeline, figure out where you want to be, why you want to be there. Really get to the underneath core reason for making this move.
Yeah.
Why is that important?
It's important because there may be reservations. So one of my last investors came and met with me, and he was so on board to buy their first rental property. And his wife was very reserved about it. And she had gotten some counsel from other people saying, it's okay, it's okay. And they had tried to reassure her, and yet she wasn't confident about it.
Well, they were really trying to convince her.
Yes, true. So she came into the meeting still under reservation, and I asked her, what is it that's holding you back? And she's like, well, I keep asking the same question. And so I realized, okay, this is the one we got to answer and make it not a question anymore for her. And we did that, and within 10 minutes of our first one-on-one
So what was the
consult,
question? Can you remember?
The question was, if I put another mortgage on a property, am I really protecting everything that God's giving me? Should I really be going to a bank and loaning money for my investment property? Or should I just keep paying down my mortgage? And she just wanted to treat God's money in the best way. And so we talked about one of the stories in the Bible about the businessman giving different amount or the same amount of money to different people, and them all reacting differently with it, and which way honored God more. And so it was the one that invested and earned money on it and didn't bury it. So just keeping it in the bank
or in the mattress
or in the
under
mattress,
the mattress,
isn't honoring God by growing his wealth. And so she got a lot of peace from that. And within 10 minutes of our first meeting together, she was like, on board, and I'm ready to buy our first investment. And there's going to be more. So it was really great.
And they've already bought that.
They've already bought that.
Yeah. That was just really recently.
Mm-hmm.
And so peace of mind in your process, whether it's an investment property or whether it's your first home or whether it's your 10th home, having peace of mind around the decisions is so important. And yet buyer's remorse to come up and sneak up on you is a normal part of the process. So we have to be really careful that when it comes up, hey, you're expecting it, so you can assess it and go, is this because I've made a bad decision and I need to shift gears? Or is this simply I'm spending a lot of money and it's a big decision, so I'm going to be second guessing myself a little bit. I'd say it's unusual for somebody not to at least have a small dose of buyer's remorse show up at some point.
Yeah. Or doubt.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm talking about, really, right? Doubt is, in my mind, buyer's remorse. You're doubting the decision, right? And so you want to think through the process. You want to be informed. You want to have great counsel. You want to have great information at your fingertips. And then you also want to make sure that you feel good about it. So it's both about thinking and feeling and processing the entire thing rationally.
Yeah. And going to one kind of sound mind to bounce your thoughts off, and being open and honest with us, saying, I'm feeling this and I'm not sure right now. Is this okay? And so that really, really helps.
It does.
Than going to 7 people.
Well, I just had a client, a really sweet young couple who I'd helped mom and dad before purchase and sell. And then I had the young couple, and they were getting a little bit of help from both sets of parents. And so although the kids were not little kids, they were, your age, were purchasing their home, they were thrilled. They found it very early in the process. And so that was the first piece of doubt that was planted. Hey, you found it too early. You haven't seen enough homes, was the feedback they were getting. And my feedback was, well, you've been looking online for 2 years. You've gone through hundreds of homes from a virtual perspective. You've even seen some open houses. And now, okay, we've only seen 4 homes. And we've picked the best of everything that's in the market for what you're looking for.
Right.
We've listened to what you're looking for. We've made sure we're well informed, that you're well informed, that we're not leaving anything on the table. So if you know when you walk into the home that, hey, this is the home, then maybe what we need to do next is let's bring all the parents.
Yeah.
And let's have a little party at the property. The upside to that is then they have an opportunity to experience what the kids have experienced. What can be a challenge sometimes is the parents will forget where they came from. And they're looking at it from the eyes of what they would be purchasing now rather than where the kids are starting out. And yet the great news I can tell you, it just happened. It was last night, actually. We were out there, 6 of us plus the little ones, and the parents loved it.
That's awesome.
And I went, phew. Because I knew the kids were making a great decision. It met all of their needs. It was in the right location. It had the right amount of space. It was newer. It didn't require much maintenance, which for this young couple, they're not necessarily handy. They weren't really looking for sweat equity.
Right.
They were looking for something that was going to be easy for them to manage and still give them a lot more room than the rental that they were currently living in. And fortunately, the house had a play structure and a little playhouse in the backyard, so the little ones ran straight to that.
Yeah.
And it helped the grandparents get pretty excited.
That's great.
Right?
Yeah.
And so having other people involved is great, and we want to make sure that you are well grounded already so you can stand up to the potential buyer's remorse that others are experiencing on your behalf. Right? It's not just yours that we're dealing with, because everybody that really cares about you wants to make sure you make a great decision, as do we.
Yeah.
Right? Because the great thing for us is most of our clients work with us again and again and again. And so one of the questions they said is, we're probably thinking this is a 3 to 5 year decision, and yet we need to be in a space that's ours. We need to be able to put our paint on the walls and our furniture in the house and just call it ours and have space to roam. And maybe they're going to stay 10 years. Like, you just don't know,
No,
right?
you
Once you get settled, your guess of timeline is not always accurate. And yet the question they said is, are you going to be able to sell this for us? Well, that's important, isn't it?
It is important.
Don't ever want to put somebody into a property that I don't have the confidence that we can resell easily.
Yeah. And sometimes we have to have that conversation.
Yes.
They fall in love with it. And it's like, okay, this is great. What I want to tell you is that it's on a major busy road. Yep, I'm good with that. And I said, okay. And you educate them along the process, and they're good with all the cons that you would see as a realtor to resell it. And I said, that's great. I just want you to know, for resale value, and when I come back to sell it in 5 years, whatever it may be, this will be longer and more difficult than what we're selling now for you. Oh, okay. And yet they're getting it at a lower rate,
lower price
for a larger home than they would in a subdivision in the same area. So if they really want that bigger home, then yeah, they're willing to take that busy road. Right. Things like that.
And so it's really just making sure you're informed.
That's right.
You understand the pros and the cons, and we've helped you navigate that part of it. So if you're just joining us on the inside track, you can tell we love our topic because we love working with our buyers and helping them make sound, great, fantastic decisions. So if you're just joining us now, go back, listen to the first half, because, we've talked a whole lot about buyer's remorse. And, you think, why would realtors plant that seed in my head? Well, it's because it's going to happen. So it's already there, and you just don't know it's there. And so I would much rather, as would you, overdo it, make it sound like this big, horrible, nasty beast waiting to get you in the back of the closet, to find out that it's really not that big a deal.
For sure.
So we've really just got started.
Yeah.
We were at our consultation. We've laid out the strategy for how to move forward. We understand what you're looking for, and we understand. Because one of the biggest complaints I probably hear, there's a few, lack of communication would be a big one, feeling out of control and out of the loop. So it's how do we keep you in control, keep you in the loop, and still help you navigate a journey that you haven't done before and that we do every day.
Right.
Yep. And so that's the first challenge I think a lot of people have. The second is not knowing that whole buyer's remorse piece, so not knowing what to expect.
Right.
Right? And then the third, probably, what would you say that is, Candice? The third thing that people come to us and are not expecting and yet are a big deal. See if we pick the same one.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we're going to pick the same.
Okay, well, I'll pick the one I got.
Okay.
Maybe you can come up with the fourth one. How's that? And that is, my other realtor that helped me in another city in another time did not listen to what I actually wanted. They decided they knew what I wanted, and they wanted me to live in the neighborhood they wanted to live in, or that they live in, or they wanted me to spend more money than I wanted to spend.
Right. If their expectations weren't being met with their dream list of a home, and they're seeing all these properties that aren't meeting their needs, the realtor's advice usually in those cases are raise your budget, then you'll get what you're dreaming for. And that puts buyers in distress.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're not comfortable in that space and spending that monthly payment, even if they're pre-approved to a higher amount.
Which many of our buyers are. They're pre-approved way beyond where they choose to spend. So one of the things that we want to alleviate early on in the conversation, and that's why a consultation. Why start there? Because we got to get on, we got to know each other's minds.
Yes.
You've got to understand what to expect, and we have to understand what you expect. So two of our favorite questions to ask is, what do you expect from your realtor through the process? Beyond protecting your interests and taking good care of you, those are givens, I hope. Right? In addition to that, though, most people have very specific things that they expect out of the relationship and out of the journey.
Right.
And then we also want to advise our clients what we expect. Right? Because it is a two-way journey. It's a partnership. We're entering something that we want to navigate well for you, and where we expect you to treat us nicely too.
Absolutely.
Right?
And come to us first when there's a question or a property, maybe it's a for sale by owner, or like come talk to us and we will address it, and we will go talk to them and we'll go see it. That's a different topic, but definitely come to us first and tell us what's going on so we can help them.
Yeah, and even if you have a concern.
Yeah,
even if it's something that you thought was going to happen and it's not, so we had the expectation talk, and then all of a sudden maybe they're not being met for some reason, rather than stew on it, we're your advisor, we're your counselor, we're your friend.
Yes.
And we're your professional in the industry, your expert that has the resources, right? So part of that not pushing someone to something they don't want is really number 3, I think, for a lot of folks that sit down with me. And it's not always even because you can't get your dream home, they've told me. It's because they just want them to be where they want them to be, and they just want them to spend as much as they can get them to spend. Well, why? Yeah. Want to understand your motivation, understand your family dynamics, understand your budget, understand everything about you that pertains to real estate, so that you can, because it's your home.
Yeah.
It's shelter, it's your home, it's your space. It's so much more than just what's the monthly payment, and yet that's a piece of it that we have to take into consideration.
It's also your investment.
Yeah, there is
whether
an investment.
it's your primary residence or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would you say there's a number 4? Or did I totally take them all?
Yeah, I think we covered them all.
Okay, perfect. And as you go through the process, we're going to make sure that we draw up the agreement of purchase and sale when we actually find the right home and help you select it. And as you've noticed, Candice has already said, we're going to tell you things, maybe this is number 4 actually, about the house relative to the deficiencies in it.
Yes.
We're not attempting to paint a picture of the home that isn't realistic. So when we're walking through the home with you, any of our buyers' representatives, buyer realtor partners, they will say, hey, did you notice the crack in that foundation? Did you see the staining of the efflorescence on the floor? And these are things that are normal in a house. Any basement has the potential for water penetration.
Yes.
The trick is to keep the water away.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Not so much... you can't, it's not a tin drum. Well, even a tin drum would rust, I guess. So it's not a safe that you can't, that won't penetrate water. And so you want to make sure that we see what the risks are and what the issues are. And so throughout the whole process, what we're hoping from the building inspection process is that they simply confirm what we already know to be true. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Probably the most important piece to talk about is just determining value of the home that you're looking for.
Yeah, because a lot of buyers come in and are unsure where the value sits. They see other homes up for sale at different prices. They've now looked at a lot of homes, usually 7 to 14, visiting, and on the MLS,
Thousands.
yeah, hundreds and hundreds. And so they are trying to get an understanding of where the value sits. And really, the value doesn't sit where people are asking a certain price for a property. It's where they have sold. And there's no way of getting that information except through a realtor and our computer system, really.
Yeah.
And
our experience.
And our experience, yeah. And so we go through that with them, properties that have sold and where they are.
And the relevance to this subject.
Yeah, how they compare and that sort of thing. So after we go through that, we really don't need to tell them an exact dollar. They get educated and they get comfortable of what they would be willing to pay for it and where the value sits. So that's really great watching them discover that for themselves.
It's wonderful. Mm-hmm. So if you've joined us on the Inside Track on Real Estate with the Dekor team, we want to make sure that if you're thinking of buying a home or even selling a home and then buying a home, that you connect with us so we can answer your questions, alleviate concerns. Send this particular show out to anybody that's looking especially for their first house and really any house.
Yeah.
Right? And we've got a couple of amazing opportunities, especially for those people starting out in the real estate industry or an investor, in fact.
Yes.
Beautiful property in Canada.
Yeah.
At $259.9.
Yeah.
We had this big discussion before we started the show. Was it $259.9? Was it $260? Was it $259? It's $259.9. It's actually a terrace home in Canada Lakes with a garage.
Yeah, a single car garage, which is quite remarkable.
It is.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for something where you don't want a lot of maintenance, where you want life to be simple and have amenities, all the amenities of Canada, which is now a full-fledged city, really, are available for you there. And then another amazing, it's a 2-bedroom, and then another amazing opportunity is right in town.
Yeah, and it's a newer build. It's a condo, and it's built in 2011.
Right, and it is only $340,000. So if you want something compact, you're right next to, really close to the bus stop. You're right off of Carling Avenue. It's a main floor suite, so it's really actually easy access. You actually have a little terrace.
Yes.
Right there. You can people watch. It's kind of fun and very well cared for. Beautiful little spot and something that it's got tall ceilings. Yeah. So it was originally designed actually as a commercial unit when they were building the building, and then they decided to convert it as a residential unit, and it's one of a kind in the building. So you want to call us to get in to see that property. Thanks for joining us on the Inside Track, and for all of your real estate related questions, call us 613-860-4663, or you can email us at info@dekorteam.com. Thanks, Candice.
Thank you, Yetta.